Well, close to 109 votes so far, and by the time we are coming to a close of the program, we shall definitely be having more of the final results on this particular topic of discussion. Well, let's take you back to the issues around the cost of living and corruption in the country. And let me now bring in Dr. Way Aukot, who was with us and is still with us from our City Center studios. And Dr. the President yesterday maintained that the handshake is still firm with the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. And on one end, you're saying that initiatives such as the building bridges are merely a necessary cost to the taxpayers at the end of the day.
Yeah, I still maintain, first of all, just for the avoidance of doubt, Agina, we are the only political party that actually congratulated President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga after the handshake. That was on the 9th. And we issued a very comprehensive statement on the 10th of March in which we said we welcome the handshake. It's good for the country at that time because the tensions were high. But we also insisted on certain things happening, that there have to be a public apology from both ends on the Kenyans who suffered. We recounted about 300 Kenyans who died because of the kind of politics or opposition that people still want. We also, if you look at our statement, it's very comprehensive. We even asked if Raila now could stand down as the people's president, recognize President Uhuru as the legitimately elected president of the republic, and then encourage as many handshakes as possible. But related to the question of resources, and this is what we are saying. The country right now is almost cash-strapped. The national debt is very high. The cost of living is very high. So with all those issues, we have existing institutions with budgets. Now, with that context, do we actually need to create more institutions that are not even in compliance with the Constitution? For example, the principle of public participation. If Kenyans had been asked, do you want a task force on building bridges? I bet you that many Kenyans will say, no, we don't need a task force like that because, as I said, we already have existing findings on what ails this country, right from the TGRC report of 2013, the 2010 Constitution, the 2009, 2008 Kriegler and Waki report, which have both documented what ails our country. So what we are saying as a party is we have no problem with President Uhuru Kenyatta shaking hands with as many people as possible. Let him shake. I mean, he's the leader of the country. He's the top leader of the country right now. But let's also not go into the little resources that we have. And secondly, our criticism is also very genuine that let's also expand this handshake shouldn't just be about two individuals. It's been reduced to Raila, Uhuru. I mean, we are going away from this narrative. And let me tell you, it is part of the reason why people are now misunderstanding what the role of the opposition is. The role of opposition is not about confrontational, conflictual demonstrations. If you look at what our party has done in our own capacity since April, we have opposed the VAT being imposed on Kenyans. Even last week, we sent a memoranda, again, on VAT on petroleum goods. So, depending on how you define opposition, if you want opposition of demonstration, of violence, that has cost the Kenyans' life, then maybe you can say that opposition is dead because it's no longer there. For me, I would rather that opposition dies because we don't need to lose any more Kenyans. We need us as a country to begin to have a conversation on the issues that affect Kenyans. And Kenyans should learn to use provision in the Constitution. For example, Article 119 allows any Kenyan, doesn't have to be a political leader, to petition Parliament on issues of national interest. This is what Third Way Alliance Kenya is doing. Instead of saying the opposition has failed, Kenyans should be saying the leader, the MP, the women rep, the senator, the MCS that we elected have failed us because they are the ones who are supposed to oversight government, pass legislation, and represent their interest. So it is an anomaly to say the opposition. What is the opposition? You have to deconstruct opposition and bring it to the leader you gave the mandate. Right. There are people today in Parliament. If we say that Parliament is dead, I will agree because parliamentarians only agree on what benefits them, which is why They increased their pension from 700% the other day. They again want lavish cars. They want massages, class, I mean, 5-star hotel kind of thing. So that is a leadership failure. It's not the opposition. But Third Way Alliance Kenya is firm, and we will continue to play our opposition role. We will not be dissuaded. We don't want to join government. And that really is our position going forward.
Of course, Dr.
And on corruption, I need to say something. I need to say something on corruption.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think we like what the president is doing, but you see, arraigning people in court, rounding up people, doesn't really end corruption. We want to see convictions. We want to see recovery of money. This is the kind of fight against corruption that we want to see. I also like the demolition, the fighting of impunity. In fact, if President Uhuru were just to fight impunity and then corruption alone, even his big 4 agenda will automatically fall into place.
All right. Dr. Of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were the main contenders in the election, as much as you're saying that you need to see more handshakes. And finally, Dr. Through your Secretary General, Fred Okango, Third Way has been advancing a very interesting model around Punguza Mzigo. Perhaps just in brief, as we wrap up, how far has this initiative gone? Is it making any headway, or it was just a busybody?
No, first of all, I think you need to take away the words busybody. We don't do things as busybodies. We are not busybodies. We actually have engaged on very cogent issues that affect this country. Yeah, I think that's a bit biased for you as a presenter to call us busybodies. I mean, the Punguza Mizigo campaign is very genuine and speaks to the issues that affect this country. So far, it's doing very well. It's being received. You know, we designed an online platform. Kenyans are still signing. At the last check, I think we had reached about 217,000 signatures. And we want to do this meticulously and surely, so that it is not the kind of, Okoa Kenya kind of politicization or Punda Amechoka. Ours is totally different. We are doing it for very good reason. Number one, we are overrepresented as a country. We don't need 416 members of parliament who are consuming that 6.8 billion annually. Our intention is to reduce us to 5 billion annually, so that the money that the government is currently now looking can actually save it. We also want to address the perennial issue of women being discriminated in positions of leadership. We want to increase more money to devolution, to devolve units from the current 15%, 35%. We want to make sure that the Senate is a upper house with the veto power, so that when Parliament passes bad legislation like now this VAT they propose, then Senate can actually veto and reject. When National Assembly conspires to reject a report about that contains mercury that is injurious to Kenyans, Senate can then be able to veto that. So we are doing this for very, very good reasons, and that cannot be the work of what you describe as a busybody. We are a serious, ideological, issue-based political party. We don't threaten government of the day so that we get included. We don't just mobilize people. We are not tribal. We don't pride ourselves in tribal mobilization, because I think that is what has hailed this country. And in fact, if there was something if there was something that even this President Uhuru can actually do under these so-called building bridges, they could just attack toxic and divisive politics alone, then identify the people who are propagating that kind of politics. That is what will heal Kenya, and that is the philosophy of Third Way Alliance Kenya. Issue-based politics and how we can move to become a nation state.
All right.
Asante sana.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. And in case my sentiments did rub you off wrongly, my apologies. But that's why we bring it to a close with Dr. Kenyans Aukot, just putting the record straight in relation to the value-added tax. Of course, very, very much feedback coming in